its flag, its red flag, in honor of this martyr of our revolution. Comrade Chris, dare we remind ourselves, was a disciplined, loyal, and dedicated cadre of our movement and a leader of both the African National Congress and the South African Communist Party. Comrade Chris belonged, is very important, to both these organizations. It's very important to underline this, and this is still relevant today. So that those who tell us that you can't be in more than one organization do not understand the traditions and the history of our own revolution and struggle. There is no contradiction in being a leader across the three organizations, like Comrade Stumo Dlamini today, amongst others. Comrade Chris served in Umkhonto weSizwe because he was a great believer that no revolution will take place unless its cadres are at the center of it, and that all revolutionaries must take responsibility for the revolution. Comrade Chris stood for the unity of our alliance, as well as the unity of each of the components of this alliance. If there is one lesson that today we need to learn from the life and example of Comrade Chris, it is that the unity of the alliance must be placed above individual interests. For Comrade Chris, in line with the traditions of our own movement, no one individual can be bigger than any of our alliance formations. Let us dedicate this 21st anniversary to the unity of our alliance and all its components. In particular, the SACP is calling for maximum and disciplined unity amongst the workers of our country. Comrade Chris was always amongst the first in undertaking new tasks and challenges during the different phases of our revolution. When our movement took up arms, he was amongst the first to join Umkhonto weSizwe. When the movement suspended the armed struggle, he was in the forefront of explaining that decision to our people, even though he had disagreed with it when it was being debated. The immediate task of the revolution now, because it's always important to understand that during different phases, there are always immediate tasks. The immediate task of the revolution on this 21st commemoration is to return the ANC to power with an overwhelming majority on the 7th of May, 2014. That's the immediate task of the revolution. And let's honor Comrade Chris by going out in our numbers on election day. In memory of Comrade Chris, we especially urge all workers to unite and come out in numbers to vote for the ANC. The working class must take responsibility for fulfilling the task of the moment. It can't be left behind or separate itself from the revolutionary challenge of the moment. Of course, as Lindy said, we commemorate this 21st anniversary during the 20th anniversary of our democracy. Therefore, it's going to be very important, in a way, partly to give a report back to Comrade Chris, as Comrade Jesse was saying, on what we have done. But also, comrades, we are commemorating this 21st anniversary when our ally Cosatu is facing one of its toughest challenges in its entire history of existence. Our call is for unity, unity, unity. We must seek unity between the leadership, amongst the leadership itself, as well as the unity between the leadership and our membership of all our formations, and the unity between the leadership and the people of our country. However, it's very important to say this. Unity must be approached from a revolutionary and not from a mechanical and opportunistic stance. We know there can never be unity between the working class and the capitalist class. There can also never be unity between revolutionary and counter-revolutionary forces. There also can never be unity between genuine revolutionaries and those who are deliberately sowing divisions amongst our organizations. Instead, the precondition for unity is to isolate and defeat all those who are hell-bent on dividing our own organizations. And we are saying to Cosatu, let us close ranks, let us unite our federation. Let us not give a quota both to the old and new enemies of our alliance and national liberation movement. By defeating the arrogant party of white privilege and racist of exploitation of workers, the DA. Let us also equally defeat demagogic and neo-fascist entrepreneurs in the EFF. The working class, consisting of the employed and all the people who make a living from their own labor, the unemployed and the poor, have played a crucial role in our national liberation struggle and the defeat of apartheid 20 years ago in the achievement of our democratic breakthrough. There is therefore absolutely no reason that the working class can make such progress and advances over the last 20 years, and then the same working class seeks to walk away from those achievements and seek to walk away from taking responsibility from those achievements. If you divide Cosatu, tunyo ubani. Because dividing Cosatu can only benefit the bosses. It can't benefit anybody else. We have to ask ourselves, if you wake up every day and insulting Cosatu, the ANC, SACP, utunyo ubani. And whose interests are you actually serving? Now is not the time to allow the working class to be distracted by internal divisions or cults of the personality, or any other narrow interests. The ANC-led alliance still remains the only relevant and most appropriate vehicle to take forward our national democratic revolution. Our revolution seeks to eliminate the injustices of the colonial and apartheid past and to transform our country into a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous society in which there is a better life for all. No frustration, disappointment, unhappiness, or personality cult or opportunistic posturing can be big enough to justify working class desertion from this critical terrain of struggle. If it was so, because of our frustrations, we all have our own little disappointments and frustrations in the movement. No one can say you have never experienced that, but you do not walk away from the movement. Comrade Chris Hani would, for instance, have walked away from the movement in 1967 when they wrote that letter to the leadership about what they saw as wrong things happening in the organization, but he never walked away. To walk away is actually being irresponsible. What happens when the working class is divided, by the way? Monopoly capital laughs all the way to the bank. The SABC is looted by entrepreneurs whilst the working class is divided. Profit-greedy private healthcare erodes the prospects of rolling out the national health insurance. If Cosatu is not there as a united force, we are going to battle to implement the NHI, for instance. Private media oligopolies continue to block digital migration as they squabble among themselves for dominance. Private communication monopolies continue to rip us off, charging amongst the highest cell phone fees in the world. That is the struggle we should be fighting united rather than allowing Cosatu to be divided. Whilst the working class is divided, the corrupt and their corruptors feel safer knowing that the organized working class is distracted. The SACP calls on the workers and the poor to use the election campaign to take back the moral high ground, to close ranks and roll back the corrupting domination of monopoly capital on our society. As the alliance, we have the responsibility to help Cosatu overcome its problems. But it's very important that we watch those who want to divide us. That when we intervene, we must not allow the opportunism of those who want to divide us to go unchecked. It's very important for the sake of trade union unity. There are some who portray themselves as worker leaders, but they are focusing all their attention on fighting internal factional battles and on opposition to the ANC-led government and the alliance. If you advocate electoral absenteeism or anti-ANC electioneering whilst attacking the primary political formations of our alliance, the SACP, and decampaigning the ANC, they are playing directly into the hands of unbridled personal and factional ambitions, opportunistic organizations such as those formed by the Tenderpreneur, and the DA, the party of big capital and white privilege. I-DA, i-party yabelungu. Sekhona ngathi abazi manje ukuthi sikhuluma ngani masikhuluma ngamanga abelungu. Yibo abakithi manje abanye babo bazothi uNzimande wakhuluma ngamanga abelungu kwenze njani. Amanga abelungu yiwo la akhulunywa i-DA. Ngizobuyela kulento khona manje. In memory of Comrade Chris, we would also like to call upon all the metal workers of our country not to allow themselves to be misled into abandoning Cosatu, the ANC, and the alliance. Ekuruleni is the heart of metal workers. As the Communist Party want to call on to metal workers that they must guard jealously their being in Cosatu, to seek to protect Cosatu, guard jealously our alliance, and they must not be misled, because the only people who will suffer will be the metal workers themselves, not the bosses and the others who are actually exploiting us. We want to ask a question. I saw someone on television yesterday saying, no, the ANC is here to intervene just for the sake of the elections. It's not true to say that of the ANC, as if the ANC doesn't care about the unity of Cosatu. But also, what's wrong if the ANC intervenes because of the elections? What's wrong with that? To say, for the ANC to say, let's not squabble, let's focus on the immediate task of the moment, which is a united voice as we go to the 7th of May. What's wrong with that? Ngiyayibuka le comrade television, le comrade umthethwayo, icabanga nini into wrong? Of course, we must unite to go and vote, unless that comrade is no longer interested in an ANC government. It can only mean that and nothing else. Comrades, we call on the working class, in particular, on the 7th of May, that let us teach the DA, the arrogant party of monopoly capital and minority privilege, a powerful lesson. We call on the working class to deliver a decisive electoral defeat on the DA, a party that opposed farm workers' minimum wage being raised from 65 rand a day, a party that supports labor brokers, A party that wants to roll back hard-won labor market legislation in favor of a flexible labor market. A party that portrays Cosatu as the enemy and marches on its head office. A party of hypocrisy that speaks out of two sides of its mouth on black economic empowerment and on land reform. A party that fudges its silent approval of the Zionist apartheid wall in Palestine. A party that is seeking to disguise its conservative minority white electoral machine and its neoliberal agenda behind parachuted black faces and a newly discovered support for ANC presidents of the past. These are political labor brokers who were bringing in Mpilo. And she allowed himself to be brought in by these political labor brokers, the DA. The DA is a party financially supported by pro-Zionist elements that are very problematic. We call on the working class. Come out in your large numbers. Basebenzi. Eleni lelizwe basebenzi. After all, to deliver a massive electoral blow to this big party of big capital and white privilege. Electoral absenteeism and the anti-ANC posturing plays into this agenda. And we must say so to those comrades who are gambling with the unity of our alliance, that we are playing into this agenda of this party obas no medem DA. And imele lokho akukho kunye ekumele abelungu. On May 7, let us also deal a decisive electoral blow against the EFF, the party led by the most corrupted tenderpreneurs. Workers are not fooled by these loud-mouthed demagogues, these tenderpreneurs who have stolen our colors in red berets, who not only plagiarize our identities and ideas from our progressive youth movement, comprising of the Youth League and the YCL and student organizations. These loud-mouthed demagogues and tenderpreneurs in red berets have never done an honest day's work. So where do they get their fancy cars, their Breitling watches? Where do they get their campaigning funding from? The EFF practices the same kind of demagogy that we are seeing playing itself out in the platinum mines at the moment. The EFF, like AMCU, hijacks real grievances, but for entirely self-serving leadership purposes. That is why workers in the platinum sector are being led to a slaughterhouse currently with this endless strike, loss of earnings and potential retrenchments. And this can only strengthen the bosses and weaken the working class. For all these reasons, we are saying to the workers, come out in your numbers to vote for the ANC to defeat anti-worker right-wing formations, whether they are cloaked in blue or red guises. A working class election campaign gives us an opportunity, comrades. Comrade Jesse was saying this, to consolidate on the gains we've made. And let's just mention a few. The ANC-led government in the last 5 years has turned the tide against HIV and AIDS and falling life expectancy rate. The ANC government today rigorously leads HIV and AIDS prevention program, including prevention of mother-to-child transmission. Government has made antiretroviral treatment available to 2.4 million people. The government that has increased life expectancy of more people with an average of 60 years in 2012. The ANC-led government that opposes privatization because of working class and SACP struggles within the alliance itself, and this ANC led by President Zuma listened. A government that has rescued the auto sector, by the way. in our country through public investment of 22 billion rands in 183 projects, preserving 46,000 jobs and adding 9,850 more jobs and securing and stabilizing NUMSA membership as a result. A government that has led interventions in other industrial sectors, including clothing and textile. An ANC-led government which in the past 5 years has driven an economic and social infrastructure program committing 1 trillion rands of public spending as a key counter-cyclical intervention in the midst of the current global economic crisis. A government that has introduced the removal of adverse credit information coming into effect from the 1st of April, impacting on some 10 million South Africans suffocated by mashonisas and high bank charges. We say hala hala ANC on this one as the South African Communist Party. A government that in the face of DA-led opposition has reopened the lodgement of land claims to address the plight of millions of the landless and land hungry. A government that has provided work opportunities to 4.5 million unemployed South Africans through expanded public works and community works programs. A government that has opened the doors of higher learning to hundreds of thousands of more children of the working class with the trebling of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme from 3.1 billion in 2009 to 9.6 billion rands in 2014. So when we say we must vote ANC, we call on the workers, all these things have directly benefited the working class. Perhaps even more than anybody else. These are the struggles we must continue with. Of course, we must vote for the ANC going forward because we still need more jobs and decent work, transform the financial sector, defend and deepen our democracy, more access to skills and education, as well as better housing and basic services for all. You know, our Cuban comrades say to us, sometimes you comrades, you do not realize what you have done. No government anywhere in the world for the past 20 years have built more than 3 million houses for the poor. Anywhere else in the world, it's an unequaled, it's actually an unparalleled record. Comrades, lastly, we must talk about this. In memory of Comrade Chris, we can claim all these victories because indeed it was his blood and that of many of our martyrs that enabled our 1994 democratic breakthrough. But those forces that have no good story to tell are trying by all means to discredit the ANC and President Zuma in particular. The SACP wishes to reiterate its commitment to the struggle against corruption. Together with our allies and government, we condemn all forms of corruption, whether in the public or private sector. We welcome the fact that the President had on his own appointed the Special Investigations Unit to investigate the many allegations of corruption in our country, including the inflation of the prices in the security upgrades of the President's own residence at Nkandla. Despite this, the President and government fully cooperated with the Public Protector investigation into this matter. We do not only call special parliamentary sessions for Nkandla. We wish those who do so can also call special parliamentary sessions when construction companies are fleecing government of billions of rands in the 2010 FIFA World Cup. Today, as the SACP, we wish to say that none of all the investigations have disputed the fact that no private house of President Zuma was built by the state. Umsholozo umnomzana ozakhela umuzi wakhe njengabo bonke abanye abanomzana. And that the President never asked for any upgrades in his residences. And also there is disinformation. As if some of these things that were done, security improvements, were not done to others. They were done to PW Botha, to FW de Klerk, illegitimate as they were, as well as the private residences of former Presidents Mandela, Mbeki, and Montante. Of course, we have expressed our concern that the timing of firstly on the inflation of the work that was being done. That is why we welcome the appointment of the SIU to investigate this. And we won't rest until those who have done, because this thing has led to us being embarrassed. And we must act against those who are responsible for this. Now, i-DA ke ne-opposition sekuyona into elalidliwe-ke leya senkandla. Sekuyinkandla zonke insuku ngoba bazi ukuthi bazoyothini kubantu bakithi ngoba they cannot equal the record. And our people are not stupid. They can see that this matter of inkandla is being turned into an electioneering gimmick by those who have nothing to tell about what they have done to the people of our country. But also, comrades, there is a danger as I move towards closing that if we are not vigilant about our own structures in the Constitution, they may slowly become abused, even through this hypocrisy I want to talk about now as I close. You know, we are told now, you can't criticize Advocate Thuli Madonsela. You can't criticize the public protector. If you do so, we are against the Constitution. Go back and listen to what the DA was saying during the time of Justice Selby Bakwa and Advocate Mushwana when they were public protectors. They were attacking them every day, including the media. Now, today we are told you can't touch the public protector. I want to quote Helen Zille. Allow me. Allow me. Utu Helen. When the provisional report last day of the public protector comes out and say there is corruption in a tender in the Western Cape government, she says, a provisional report drafted for the public protector into the Western Cape's government alleged improper procurement of communication services was leaked to the media a week before the agreed deadline for our response. Kumbula, when we complained about the leaking of the report, they were quiet. But here they are complaining about the leaking of the report that affects them. She continues, this in itself is highly irregular and prejudices our right to rectify what our advocate believes to be material legal errors in the draft report before the report is finalized. Without casting aspersions on the public protector herself, we believe this premature leak prejudices the administration of justice and compromises our rights. Okay? But if it's the ANC, our rights are not compromised. But if it's the DA, their rights are compromised. And she continues, listen to this one. I end now. I will be making all of these, that's what she says, and other points to the public protector myself when I meet her later this week, in order to give her the opportunity to rectify the report before she finalizes it under her name, unquote. Vamos? Indeed, the public protector went ahead and changed that provisional report. Yes, she did. And where were all these moral police and self-appointed protectors of the public protector when Zille challenged the public protector? Even in media, the public protector doesn't get challenged. Where were they? They were absent and silent and dead. In other words, comrades, it's only us who can fight a principled struggle against corruption. The public protector is bad if he or she doesn't find against government and the ANC. But if she finds against government or the ANC, she is good. There is no in principle support of the office of the public protector, but it depends on whether the public protector is seen to be acting in a manner that reinforces the opposition. That's opportunism. We must point out these things. We must challenge everybody. I know immediate eating our attack. I'm in attacking and it's a great. But I, Uselpi Bakwa was attacked by SANEF in 2001 like nobody's business. Today editorials are telling us you can't criticize the public protector. 2001. We must expose this hypocrisy because so that we can defend our organs of state irrespective of what they say. Not only defend them when they are saying things that actually suits us. And the solution to that is that on the 7th of May, in honor and in memory of this hero lying here, we go out in our numbers to vote for the only organization that will continue to take this country forward, the African National Congress. Umbutho mkhulu. ANC yasetshenziswa. Alala. ANC yasetshenziswa. Alala. Ayithengwa ngethenda. Alala. Ayithengwa ngethenda.
Thank you. C'est bon. ANC yasebeletswa.